What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Ace of Base, as well as a Sleeping Luca back here, and we're going to listen to another B-side from the era of their album Flowers 1998. Thank you again to Mikey for providing these expanded folders, and the next tune is Love for Sale, which sounds cynical, or at least is not typically what you associate the emotional experience and quality of love with, which is to say a quantitative value that can be bought and sold. But of course it could be the narrator is indicating that their love is not for sale, or criticizing another for seemingly allowing their love to be quantified, made into some sort of numerical currency. Of course, it could be another meaning entirely. Ultimately, it's the kind of phrase which certainly stands out when you see it, but obviously the narrative and or situation it's in could mean very different things depending on the attitude of the narrator and or the other people involved. I'll just try to see what I can catch on a first listen. This is Ace of Base. The track is Love for Sale, and it's a B-side from the era of their 1998 album Flowers. That gritty, aggressive synth. I like that looping vocal, almost like a round, where the moment it's ending, there's another version of it starting again. So, Yeah, I feel like the danceable, dance floor groovy sonics are deliberately offset against what sounds like more serious and critical themes at play, though I'm not quite sure what's happening. At first, I thought we were talking about literal sex workers, and maybe that's part of it, but it seems like there's more. Meaning, there's a reference to getting paid for love and the money they're earning, and I could never hear the next line clearly. It was something about, like, is wanted by everyone or something. That's probably wrong. But yes, so it sounds like love could be specifically a physical type of love, love making, if you will. But then those backing vocals or sort of rhythmic vocals that like love, sex, pleasure, and pain, it almost sounds like we're talking like S&M, which of course could be part of sex work, but is a more narrow and specific category. But we're also talking about like drug addiction, and so it sounds like maybe people who have gone fully down the road of quantifying and commercializing their intimacy and their sex in a way that perhaps is part of a larger lifestyle that is dangerous or takes you down a road where it's unhealthy, you're addicted. It's not just using drugs, it's being addicted to them and perhaps getting money for them through sex acts that are increasingly extreme or built around this dichotomy of pleasure and pain and perhaps masochism and sadism. So I feel like there's again a more intense narrative, or at least scene being painted here, as it is offset against the sonics, which have this again light, almost like dream trance. It's not like full dream trance like Robert Miles or something, but it has that like beautiful sonic atmosphere within a driving dance floor rhythm. And indeed the kick had some punch to it. And then the vocals, not the male vocals, which again were sort of set in a rhythm and saying individual words and phrases which had a greater intensity to them, but the female lead had this like rapid fire delivery, and it was a bit softer and restrained. It wasn't like a big belting vocal, and those lines I actually was having a problem hearing on a first listen, which is in no way a problem. Ultimately it sort of set a bit of the underlying shadow relative to the dance floor sonics, but the point is the rapid fire delivery of some of the words and the sonically reduced or embedded delivery of those lines made it hard for me to catch what was happening in that vocal delivery. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happening here, but it sounds intense, and it sounds like maybe a critique in the larger context of what love should be, like a normative understanding of love and sex and feeling, which seems here again to have been quantified and commercialized perhaps in the service of vices and or extreme forms of love that are perhaps less sustainable on a longer timeline. So either way, a really interesting B-side. I do wonder in the moment what this was the B-side for, but yes, ultimately a tune where the sonics and the themes seem to be put together in a way where you immediately wouldn't think that the lyrics are as seemingly dark as they are, which, I talk about it a lot. Tunes that have a lighter sound but darker themes, as in this case, and then sometimes it's the reverse, where the sonics feel very heavy and dark, and yet the lyrics are more hopeful or optimistic than you might think, given that sonic atmosphere. So I enjoy tunes where there's a bit of a juxtaposition between meaning and sonic atmosphere. In any case, I'll stop talking. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.